You were wondering what I was looking at, right? What took my attention over there? I could have said, hey, that light stand over there in the corner's on a weird angle, and you could have been making a cup of tea in the kitchen or getting another vodka and tonic and still got what was going on. But how interesting would that be for you? Well, it's not exactly the highlight of my week either. But the point I'm making is that I communicated I was perplexed by something over there without words. You, dear audience, all three of you, were given a job to do. You had to use those primal skills that have been bred into you over tens of thousands of years to observe, interpret, and react. Now, entire movies were like that until that little Jewish song and dance man in blackface spoke on screen saying, "You ain't heard nothing yet." Well, actually, he wasn't the first to speak on screen, and he certainly wasn't in blackface when he said it, but oh boy, how that myth has ingrained itself in popular culture. I digress. Until the very late 1920s, audiences watching silent melodramas participated through interpretation. There were no words to tell them what characters were thinking, what they were doing, or why they were doing it. At best, a few scant title cards would pop up to provide a significant plot point, but only if it couldn't be conveyed through the images and performances. The audiences had to watch very closely and do something they never get to do during a Marvel superhero movie: exercise their brains and their emotions, not just their eyes and ears. And they happily did this for decades. These days we tend to just listen and the actors on the screen tell us what they think and feel. What? That's an oversimplification? Oh, come on. Have you ever seen a Twilight movie? I rest my case. Is the silent melodrama a totally lost art form? I mean, sure, there have been some rekindling attempts over the years, but often they were leaning towards parody or borrowing select techniques as gimmicks, really, and the rest of it was more like a modern film that just happened to be in black and white with no dialogue. But to actually go beyond the surface techniques, get right inside to the heart of the genre, very few have tried. Blancanieves does it very, very well, and it never feels like an academic exercise in film craft. It's brimming with great entertainment. It also allows for the actors to play with a whole different set of performance skills as they dispense with the voice and communicate entirely with this. Plus the underrated and so often misunderstood black art of film editing. The film is a retelling of the Snow White fairy tale, and haven't we had a few too many of those in recent years? But here it's almost unrecognisable, set in a world of bullfighters and flamenco dancers. Macarena García plays the daughter of a famous bullfighter. Yes, in place of the traditional idea of the princess and the king. But the bullfighter dies. Oh, hang on, no way, he doesn't. That's a really nice twist in this. He actually lives in this version of Would I Lie? But don't worry, there is a wicked stepmother and she is the most badass of them all. Maribel Verdú oozes social climbing cunning as she decides to move in on the old king, the bullfighter, and make life hell for the young daughter and her pet chicken. Oh, don't laugh, it works really, really well. Time passes, the little girl grows up, stepmother feels threatened by her presence and gets heavy on her case. You know the deal. Girl goes on the run, and I'm not going to tell you the rest, but there are dwarves, be it a diminished number. Disney had 7, right? Yeah, 7. But we can make do with less, including one I'm sure is a cross-dresser, but hey, I'm all for diversity. Now, we grow up with this idea that acting in silent movies was terribly coarse, but that's because we've often been fed parodies based on the worst of it. By the late 1920s, silent film had become very sophisticated, and often acting, especially in European films, was actually quite subtle and naturalistic. The reason it could be was because of, one, the directors knew how to really use a close-up at the right times, and B, the audience's attention was shaped and trained. Subconsciously, they were looking for and recognising subtleties that we today completely ignore when actors are up there on the screen talking, and things are blowing up all around them a lot. Look, there are going to be inevitable comparisons with The Artist, the French film from 2011 that took out the Oscar for Best Picture. But where that was a glossy fare inspired by a rather fluid idea of what Hollywood was in the era, and happily borrows gimmicks from quite a bit later periods for the sake of a gag, Blancnieves deploys far more authentic boundaries and draws much more from a European tradition, much more of the era, that's more organic, more visceral, and definitely more naturalistic, especially in the acting. And the actors here, they are at the top of their craft. Verdú as the stepmother and Garcia as Snow White both play it totally straight. The director Pablo Berger provides the close-ups when we need to really read their emotions. And we get it. We do pay attention. And as a result, we glean the emotional rewards. Kiko Della Rica's vivid cinematography uses every imaginable shade of grey, plus the purest blacks and whites. It's dynamic and exciting, all framed in 4:3 aspect ratio, with an intentional overlay of a mock aperture plate edge fully revealed. It's a really nice touch, and a constant reminder that what we're looking at is something that is not meant to be a slick modern movie. And the music score by Alfonso de Villa-longa sweeps from abrasive flamenco to inspiring epic to the most intimate of moments, enriching every scene. But most of all, it's the drama. The simple tale of innocence, jealousy, and unrequited love that works on us as an audience with total integrity. I mean, sure, it uses modern technologies to enhance where necessary, most of which most audiences won't notice. But these never draw attention to themselves, and stylistically and texturally, it's very, very faithful to not just mimicking, but revitalising a lost art. Well, lost until this film came along anyway. As director Pablo Berger said himself in an interview for The Guardian, "For me, Blancanieves is valid if it only serves as a terrorist act to remind directors what makes cinema an art form. Visual storytelling, editing, music, those elements that were dominant before moving images became talking pictures." Talking pictures? What a horrible term that is. Way beyond being just an homage to another era of filmmaking, Blancanieves stands on its own 2 feet as a significant new contribution to the genre of silent film.